Your entire history of your franchise, the tight end position, has been more instrumental in moving the chains in the passing game than really any of your wideouts. When I think of Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think of wide receivers. A couple guys, a couple years, and there's sporadic years. T.O., Jeremy Maclin, D-Jax, Mike Quick. A couple years. Carmichael was kind of a hybrid tight end, wide receiver in his day. Welcome back. National Football Show with your boy Big Sills. I am going to talk about my top 10 contenders for the Super Bowl. I've got 10 teams that are true Super Bowl contenders in the NFL this year. 10 teams that I think can win it. And I'm going to tell you who those are in a minute here. Let me ask you something before we get back into approach. I like what you guys were bringing up, how the Eagles should approach teams. And just going off of what Seth Joyner said earlier on Sports Take, he wants them to throw the ball 35 times a game. To me, I think that takes you away from being what your strength is. A power team. I think the Steelers have fallen into this. With Ben Roethlisberger, they were throwing the ball all around the yard. Okay? They were throwing the ball all around the yard. I think they became a finesse team and got away from being a power team. I like power teams. I like teams that can throw the ball and have power at the point of attack. I like that 49er roster a lot. I just don't like what they're doing at the quarterback position. So I'm going to get to that here in a second. But I do want to throw this at you, and I want to ask a question about Dallas Goedert here for a second. If you had to build your team with one tight end, who would you pick, Goedert or Zack Ertz? Which one of those guys would you pick? I got asked this question last night. Sills, when you look at both guys, who do you like more? Goedert or Ertz? Man, Zack Ertz could catch that dude could catch the ball, man. He could catch the ball. I don't know if Dallas is in his prime yet. Who would you want to put on? If you had to draft one of these guys, some of you guys are fantasy football guys. Who would you draft? Who would you draft? Ertz caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Hey, let me tell you something about Xander, man. If you're not in that game, the last game of the year, and you're not holding up that silver trophy, everyone else sucks. And you know what? It's a Ricky Bobby mentality, but I have to say I dig it. If you ain't first, you're last. That's how Xander thinks. Talladega Nights. And I actually like that line. It's like one of my favorite. Hey, man, if you ain't first, you're last. It is. No yak for Ertz. Andrews is a heck of a player. The kid in Baltimore, you're talking. Dallas can block the best out of any tight end minus Kittle. Insane and yak. See, Slasher, that's what I like about Goedert too. Can I tell you what I look at with Zack Ertz? He kind of reminds me of Jason Witten. I've never been a Jason Witten guy. See, to me, Dallas Goedert's like an old school guy. He's like Mark Bavaro with hands. And not that Mark didn't have hands, they just didn't throw the ball back in them days. Especially in New York with the Giants. Am I right when I say that? When you look at Dallas Goedert, don't you see like a version, almost like Ozzie Newsome a little bit? Ozzie could block, and he could catch passes, and they could put him in the slot. They did that in Cleveland with Kozar and those teams that went to the AFC Championship game 3 years in a row. He kind of reminds me of that Jason Witten. Ertz is clutch, man. I mean, bro, everybody in Philadelphia is always going to remember the Super Bowl catch. Arguably made the most important catch in the history of the franchise. That's always going to be embedded in guys like Xander and everybody else in that city. You guys are always going to remember that, right? I think I'd take Goedert, though. He's a better blocker. I told you that I like power teams. And I think he's better than Ertz after the catch. Zach's going down. I do think Ertz got better hands. Okay, I do. But I think Dallas Goedert will get better. I think they'll get better, man. Chris, he does have big shoes to fill. But then again, the tight end position has been the most dominant position when it comes to throwing the ball in Philadelphia history. Your entire history of your franchise, the tight end position, has been more instrumental in moving the chains in the passing game than really any of your wideouts. When I think of Philadelphia Eagles, I don't think of wide receivers. You know, a couple guys, a couple years, and they're sporadic years. T.O., Jeremy Maclin, D-Jax, Mike Quick. A couple years. Carmichael was kind of a hybrid tight end, wide receiver in his day. Right? I like Goedert, though. 365, I don't know. I like guys that can block. Ertz was huge for us. Great career, great teammate. True. And that was the security blanket for Carson Wentz. Adam says that agreed. Ertz had better hands and knew the soft spots. Hey, that is, hey, Adam, he understood the game a little more. I think that'll come for Dallas. I think Dallas Goedert's going to have, of all the guys that I see this year in that offense, in my opinion, I think Dallas Goedert's going to have the biggest year of all the pass catchers. I think he's going to be the key. Keith Byers was great. They've always had running backs that could catch the ball out of the backfield. Wilbur Montgomery, Brian Westbrook, Byers, all them dudes, right? Tight ends have always Keith Jackson. Go down the list of the great tight ends you guys have had. That's really your pass catching history is through that position. Dallas will have a huge year. Totally agree. Since when does Sills think so highly of Sanders? Sean, he's got to take the heat off of Jalen Hurts. I never said I thought highly of him. He's got to take the heat, and he's the key. Well, are you under the guys here that I think that this guy's going to stay healthy this year? I don't. Are you also under the guys that I think that this guy is not going to not be the leading rusher? I don't think he's going to be the leading rusher on the team. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the leading rusher. Sanders has to be for that passing game to improve. But I think they're going to resort back to being who they are and what they are. Did it today, if you guys happen to miss that interview, a zebra's a zebra because of his stripes. Tigers don't change their stripes. All of a sudden, Jalen Hurts is going to turn into Justin Herbert. It works for him too. He's not going to all of a sudden evolve into being some pass-happy thrower like Russell Wilson. That's not who he is. He's in the NFL because of his legs, not his arm. He's not. Just a little bit of breaking news here now. The College Football Playoff Committee and the board of directors and managers has agreed to a 12-team playoff format starting in 2026. Yeah, you know why they did that? Why do you think they did that? Because they don't want the SEC to break away with the Big Ten and go like this. The rest of you guys go play who you want. The two premier leagues in college football will just play one another and have a championship because the best teams are in those conferences. Best teams are not in the Pac-12 or the ACC. They're in the SEC and Big Ten. The rest of them, roadkill. And it'll be that way because of the TV packages. The Big 12's hanging on with a respirator. Pac-12's already telling you that SC and UCLA are leaving along with Oregon to the Big Ten. What does that tell you? This college playoff, it's supposed to kind of keep it fair a little bit. Hey, do you know who the NCAA is fighting right now? The SEC. Because the SEC is this close to doing this. I think we're going to play ourselves. And maybe we'll play Tennessee, Chattanooga, and Citadel to help those programs out. You know what I would do if I were the Southeastern Conference? I'd play the historically black schools. Put them on my schedule. I like those schools. Help those kids out. Help that conference out. Don't be playing these other places. Help those schools out. They play Citadel anyway. They kill Citadel by 70 points. Right? Right. Then you get prime time. Then you get exposure for the historically black colleges. You imagine Deion Sanders having his football team, Jackson State, going into Tuscaloosa and a recruiting deal that would be. Not everybody could play at Alabama. But if I get to play Alabama and I'm an HBCU school, I'm in. That's good, man. But I don't think prime time is going to be at Jackson State too long. If I were him, I'd hire his ass as fast as I could for an NFL job or a big-time college job. And why do you guys think that? Well, if you can get Mike Zimmer to be your defensive coordinator on $70,000 when the guy was just making $6 million, and you can recruit that guy on your staff, imagine if he had the resources. And don't look at it because it's prime time. Prime time is a great recruiter. Flex, time for Hurts balls to drop. We're not paying AJ and Goedert for blocking. 55-45 in favor of pass when it comes to Sanders. Sanders stays healthy, he'll get 1,000 yards. I agree, Philly. I agree. Jackson State will lose to Alabama 85 to nothing. I get it. So what? You give a kid an opportunity to play against Alabama and college scouts and pro scouts are watching that kid at Jackson State playing against Alabama. How many pro scouts do you think are at Alabama games? 30? I want to be on a field with Alabama. You know why? Because 30 NFL scouts are watching those guys over there on the other side, and they just may go like this. That's how Bill Walsh found Jerry Rice. Mississippi Valley State. He was recruiting a guy by the name of Rooster Jones, who was a wideout at Pitt. And he was watching this kid, and all of a sudden he saw this kid at Mississippi Valley State that no one was recruiting. Bill Walsh goes like this. Who's that? Everyone goes, oh, that's Jerry Rice. Nobody knew Jerry Rice was. Bill Walsh went like this. I like that guy better. Drafted him in the first round. Rest is history. Greatest offensive weapon in the history of the NFL. 200 touchdowns, and he touched the ball 5 times a game. Unbelievable. Always remember that. When they say Jim Brown and the rest of them guys, over 20 years, what do you think the average catches Rice had in a game? 5? 5 catches, 200 touchdowns. That's getting it done, my friends. And he was still a Pro Bowler when he went to the Raiders. Remember that. I think Hurts is going to get injured this season. Way to be optimistic, Joey. Wait. Hey, Joey, way to be optimistic on this Friday. You know, that's one thing. You're the first one that said that, and I didn't even say that. Way to be optimistic, Joe. Hey, I think Hurts gets hurt. Let me guess, in the Lions game. 85. Dan, what's your take on the great Andre Waters? May I be as blunt as I can? 85. We're going to have fun today here. Don't forget Ice Cube's in hour number 2 at 4:30. You want me to tell you? Can I tell you? Hey, Can I be as frank and bold and as graphic as I can? Do you really want me to tell you what I think Andre Waters? A true motherfucker. Don't come across the middle with that dude. He's going to decleat you. That guy brings emotion to my eyes. He was nobody to mess with. That dude, I knew he lived in Tampa towards the end of his life, and I knew him. And I'm just telling you, that's the guy you don't do this when he has a pencil on his desk. You start messing around with him, he will knock you out. That guy had you didn't play around Andre Waters. That dude was a rough dude. Hey, as much as I love Seth, that guy, look who Wes Hopkins and Andre Waters roamed your secondary. Then you had Eric Allen on the corner. I don't know, man. That's your best backfield, you know. Yeah, Sean Taylor, man, that kind of guy, man. Sean was maybe a little bit more gifted as an athlete, though. Man, Wes was such a hitter, too, man. There wasn't a guy on that Gang Green that didn't hit. Joey, Dirty Waters, man. I love him. Can I tell you who I compared Andre Waters to? Jack Tatum. I got a book over here signed by Jack Tatum, Call Me Assassin. When I was doing radio in San Francisco, Jack signed my book for me. He was one of my biggest idols as a kid growing up, was Jack Tatum. And Andre Waters was Jack Tatum of the modern era. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll tell you this. He was maybe your most intimidating player you've had in the last 40 years. There was no more intimidating of a player than Andre Waters. That includes the great Seth Joyner. Wow. Ask Seth about him. Ask Seth Joyner. Hey, dude, you didn't mess around. Hey, it took me a little time to become friends with him. Jerome had introduced me to him. Don't mess around and play stupid around him. He'll fight you. I go, okay. He goes, don't get stupid around him. I'm like, holy shit, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, you start jacking around with him and start kidding, he will throw hands. Whew. I said intimidating. Beto, I said intimidating. He's your most intimidating player. Dawkins wasn't intimidating like this guy. Nobody came across the middle, man, with him out there. They were afraid, honestly. Everyone knew going into the secondary with Hopkins and Waters. Yeah, no way. No, you can't hit guys like they did back then, though, too. You couldn't hit them. Like, how about this? Wes Hopkins and Andre Waters couldn't play today. They couldn't play in today's NFL. They would be like perfect. They'd be like that kind of guy. They'd be constantly being fined and suspended. Hey, ask Michael Irvin. I know, man. Michael Irvin always said it too. There were two players he hated playing against: Neas Williams and Andre Waters. I said, why Andre? He goes, the guy's talking shit to you the whole time. I'm going to knock you the F out. I'm going to beat on you. Andre Waters is saying this to Michael Irvin when they were lining up. Bro, I'm going to kill you out here today. He's talking to him like that. The ref's telling him to shut up. Mike goes like this, man. Neas didn't say those things. But Waters would say this: you come across the middle, man, your family won't recognize you. Yeah, man, I love that kind of shit talking too, man. Hey, man, your family won't recognize you when you come across the middle. If you come in my world, man, they won't know who you are, and you won't know where you are. Michael said that. This guy was the biggest shit talker, man. And you know Mike's a big shit talker. He is, man. Woo. Boy, it gives me some goosebumps talking about him. All right. Should we do? No, I'm going to wait for my true Super Bowl contenders. No, do it now. Let me do it now. I got 10 teams that are my true Super Bowl contending teams going into the 2022 NFL season. I thought about these teams this morning when I was putting this list together. Number 10, I got the Baltimore Ravens. I think the Ravens are going to have a bounce-back season. And do you know what I love about this type of team? They're so well constructed. They're so well run. The coaching staff is spectacular with John Harbaugh, who could be the most underrated coach in the NFL. Baltimore, I think Lamar, because he's betting on himself. And anytime you have players that gamble on themselves, how many times do you see career years? I think Lamar Jackson's going to have a career year this year in Baltimore. That says a lot. He was a unanimous MVP a few years back, and his team went 14-2. If he's healthy, Baltimore's my number 10 hole when it comes to Super Bowl favorites. Number 9, the Philadelphia Eagles. Deepest roster in the NFC. I think they have the right mentality. We'll see if they change that up, going from a power team to a finesse team. That concerns me. Especially when I heard Seth say they need to throw the ball 35 times. I don't know, man. Why take the sledgehammer out of the Eagles' hands? I don't want to take that sledgehammer out of your hand. The Eagles are a sledgehammer. Dude, don't get hit with a sledgehammer. What happens? I don't need to take very many swings. Would you rather get hit by a hammer or a sledgehammer? You know what I'm saying? I could survive a hammer. I don't know about a sledgehammer. And the Eagles in the second half of the season last year, they were a sledgehammer. Why take that out of their hands and give them a hammer, a hand hammer? Why? I got the 49ers here at 8. And by the way, you could probably put the Eagles here at 8. I thought about it. I like their roster. I think they have better pass rushers. Their linebacking core, I think they're good. I think they got the best tackle in the game. Okay? They got one of the better tight ends in the game. And they got a dominant running attack. Their coach is better, okay, than the Eagle coach. But you could flip these two, 8 or 9, if you want. I'm good with that. I debated. I'm putting the Eagles either 8th or 9th, okay? But I just don't like what they're doing at quarterback. Number 7, I got the Packers. I don't care what you say about Davante Adams not being on that team when people say that they're going to struggle. I don't believe it. The Packers never struggle. They never struggle as long as you have Favre and Rodgers in the building. They've never struggled. I've seen Davante Adams out last year, and they still dominated teams. I do not believe. Now, playoffs will be different not having Davante Adams, but in a regular NFL season, I don't think that loss is going to be as dramatic as some people think. As long as you don't lose Adam, as long as you don't lose Aaron Rodgers, I think you're good. I do. I think you're good. Number 6, I got Denver here. I really thought about this with Denver. Russell Wilson just signs that huge $250 million contract extension. How many people think he's going to have a bounce-back year this year? Boy, the Broncos think so. And by the way, over 7 years, if he hits on all of his incentives, okay, it could be $296 million. How many people think that this guy has a bounce back? I think I'm with you, GT. I think he has a bounce back season. I think they have all the components. And here's a case where I think they've done a really nice job building that football team even 2 years ago for Russell Wilson. And now they plug him in. It's kind of what's going on in Philly. If Jalen doesn't work out, what are you going to do? You got a ready-made team for a passer already. That's kind of what went down in Denver. They are in the toughest division in football, though. Okay? They are in the toughest division. AFC West is the best. All four of those teams out there, the last place team might not make the playoffs because they win 11 games. I think you can win 11 games in the AFC this year, and guess what? Might miss the playoffs. That's how deep that conference is. They got good weapons picking. They really do. They got really good weapons. GT's like Lamar. GT, I don't know if a guy like Devontae Smith would like playing with Lamar Jackson. You know, you go to another running quarterback. He doesn't need another running quarterback. He needs a passing quarterback. If I'm Devontae, I don't know if I'd be happy if Lamar Jackson came to Philly. He's never going to get his numbers that way. Right now, it's going to be suspect in how many 1,000-yard seasons he has anyway, with the style of play the Eagles are going to play. I don't know. Well, again, there's different people have different opinions on his numbers, what they think this year. Are you saying that Devontae's jealous of Rager? Dude, let me tell you something. If Devontae Smith is in Minnesota, he has 1,300 yards. Okay, here, watch this. I'll give you the teams. Here, I'll give you the teams. If he's in Green Bay, he has 1,300. If he's in Cincinnati, he has 1,300. If he's in New Orleans, he has 1,300. Denver, 1,300. Not San Fran. If he's in Los Angeles, pick a team. He has 1,300. Not in Tennessee. Not in Chicago. If he's in Pittsburgh, he might have 1,300 yards. Buffalo, for sure. He's in Philly, 950. But watch this. If Jamar Chase is in Philly, 950. 950. What would you think that his numbers are going to be the same in Philly? No way. How many times do you see wide receivers go places? You think Tyreek Hill's going to put up 1,300 yards this year? All right. I want to see that. He'll never fulfill that contract in Miami. Okay? If Ertz Smitty's not going to be. You think that Devontae Smith is going to be an Eagle for a long time? Why would he want to be an Eagle for a long time if he's not getting 1,000-yard seasons? Wide receivers today want to get their numbers. That's how they're paid. They're not paid on grit. Hey, he's a gritty guy and a great team guy. Yeah, well, when you have to go and you start negotiating for your contract, are you under some guys that you sitting here going like, hey, you know what? He's really a good dude. You guys like that good dude thing. You want to pay Jalen $40 million because he's a good dude, and you want to pay Devontae because he's a good dude. I don't think it works like that. You get paid on numbers and production. Can someone – let's see here. Smith just wants to win. Well, so does Garoppolo. He's 45-12, and he's been fired. Can you imagine what Jay just said? Jay goes like this. Smitty just wants to win. So does Garoppolo. He's 45-12. What's that record again, Xander, for Garoppolo? Jimmy Garoppolo just wants to win. He ain't getting paid for it. Actually took a pay cut. He just wants to win. He ain't getting paid. And they gave him a haircut and salary. Okay, he's not an ego guy. Neither is Garoppolo. Do you see what Garoppolo said? Garoppolo went like this. This is what you love about Jimmy Garoppolo. Do you know why I love Jimmy Garoppolo so much? You know what he said? Hey, how come you didn't force your hand and force a trade? You know what he said? I don't like being a distraction. I don't like, getting in there and ruffling feathers like that. There's no need to do that. People will do the right thing. I just didn't want to be a distraction. Sign me up for Garoppolo all night long. Okay? Sign me up for that. That's awesome. That's awesome leadership. All right. Hey, don't forget, my friends, my good friends at Morgan & Morgan, where the fee is free, meaning this: if you're hurt or injured on the job, there is no better place to protect your rights and to get the fair compensation for you and your family so need. Hey, getting hurt on the job, you're going to need a bulldog in the room to make sure you get your fair compensation. And for the people is just not a slogan. It is who they are. And for the past 30 years, they've collected over $13.5 billion when it comes to getting compensation for their clients. And Morgan & Morgan is the biggest firm in the country. Call them at 800-512-1600. That's 800-512-1600. The call is free. The consultation's free. 800-512-1600. And when you call Morgan & Morgan, do me a favor, tell them Dan Sileo sent you.
When choosing a lawyer for your injury case, you may ask, does the size of the law firm matter? Well, of course it does. The insurance company, they're huge with unlimited resources. And whether your case is big or small, they're built to bully you out of the money you're owed. But here's the good news. We're big too, the biggest actually. And we're built to fight to make them pay for all that was taken from you. Size is our strength. There's only one Morgan & Morgan. ForThePeople.com.